Yeah. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
This is Let's Talk About Dating on Going Solo Media, WGSN-DB's Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast #1 Internet Singles Talk Network. And this is Barry Selby and Christine Baumgartner talking about, can we just be friends? Barry, can we just be friends?
I like to
I
think
think
so.
we
Yeah,
are just friends. Don't you think?
we are.
We are just
Yeah,
friends.
right.
Yeah.
But it's the key question about friends and then dating, and friends and romance, and friends and sex, and friends and all that stuff.
Friends and benefits. There's all the different levels of friendship.
Yeah, that's another one too. Friends with benefits. Yes, been there,
Friends
done that.
without benefits.
Or
Or what
friends
kind of
with just
benefits? What kind of benefits are you talking about? Because there's a lot of different kind of benefits.
indeed there are.
So we were chatting with our producer before we started about, if you're in the friend zone or you put somebody in the friend zone, what causes you to put them there? Can they ever get out? I think this has just so many layers, and I think this is going to be super fun to talk about because Barry and I both said we have some different perspectives and point of view about this.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah, because the thing about this is that people presume already what we're going to talk about, and we will, and a lot more. So
Always a lot more.
yeah,
I really find that people go, gosh, I hadn't thought about it that way. And oh, that was an interesting point of view. And I like that because we do talk about expected things, but we do talk about unexpected things. Yeah.
that's one of our skill sets.
I think that's really one of our really strong skill sets, actually. And we
Yeah.
do it equally differently.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is
That's
fun.
that's the reason why we do what we do and why we help our clients so well, because we don't see through the same lens they do. That's the whole point.
There's nothing boring about us.
Most of the time.
Friend.
Sorry. Yes.
So obviously, we're not talking about just somebody that you are friends with. This is somebody that is probably the opposite sex. And you have things that you have in common, the things that you like about the other person. And maybe just sincerely, I mean, if we start with just the basic, is there somebody that you just go, wow, I really want to be friends with them? I don't have any romantic interest. It's not even any innuendos as far as I'm concerned. I just think they would be a really good friend. I would like to go to the movies with them or have political discussions with them or whatever is the level that this person, because it's really good to have a variety of friends in your life. Somebody
Right.
that you feel like you could trust being with them, even if it's only in this limited way, that you do have this really meaty thing in common that you could talk about and get into an interesting discussion about and bring different information to each other. That is a super fun friend. And the problem happens when the other person wants to be more than that.
Yeah, we miss each other. Absolutely. I mean, the topic we're talking about really is kind of the overlap between friendship and sexual connection or attraction. So it's this enmeshment, and when we get like, how does this work?
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, first of all, we definitely need to talk about the difference between the way men and women see this conversation, because that's going to be one piece.
Oh, yeah.
The second part, though, is, well, there's another piece, a bunch of pieces. It's like, can we just be friends? Well, the other part also is, after breakups, because I do a lot of work with divorced people, seen a lot of what happening with clients, and I'm actually part of a group that is actually a friend of mine started back east about divorced community. And the question comes up a lot. It's like, how can people be friends after the relationship is over, after divorce? So this question about friends is both before, during, and after in the spectrum. So we're going to cover all of, I'd like to think we're going to cover all of that in our conversation today.
Yeah. And I love that you bring up that generally men and women do look at the word friendship and friends from a really different point of view. And so I could be friends with a man who I had some chemistry feelings about, but they just really don't have the qualities that I'd want in a permanent monogamous relationship. But I could absolutely just be friends with him. How would that sit with you, Barry?
I'm just reflecting on my own experiences. Let's just say that I've evolved a bit since my early days in this field, because early on, it was kind of like, it was like sexual attraction or nothing. The thing was, if there was chemistry there, and it wasn't going to be, and it wasn't reciprocated, or it wasn't going to be that connection, it was kind of like, okay, next. And that was the wiring, because I know, and this is one that I mean, Alison Armstrong talks about. I think Alison talks about this, about the dating apps for men. It's like a sorting system or a hunting platform where it's like, is this the one? Is this the one? Is this the one? And I think in real life, for a lot of us men, we have that wiring inside that if this isn't the one, there's like, it's either that or nothing else. There isn't. It's like we don't go looking for female friends. Most men don't look for female friends as a common focus. It's not what we probably do. I personally do, partly because that's the whole networking thing for me, but also because I have a lot of female friends in my life. It's been that way for most of my life, and I know I'm unusual that way, as most men don't do that.
Mm-mm. So that's why it's really important to talk about how it can be for a man that's got your personality style, done a lot of work, understands the value of both, and then the general population of men, which doesn't make them wrong or bad. It's just they're still in their base instinct of, do I want to have sex with her or not?
Right.
I mean, that's really their sorting system, which I am truly okay enough as a base. I just need them to have a little more substantial part to them once we've started talking. But I really am clear that generally, especially if you're on a dating app, a guy is not going to talk to me, spend time talking to me, go out with me, sit across the table from me, if he isn't highly sexually attracted to me. I figure that's a given.
Well, the dating apps are, in a way, set up that way because the dating apps are focused upon, for us men, finding a mate, a partner, someone to have a sexual relationship with. So we go in presuming that because that's the way the app's intended or presented to us, in a way. It's the sales pitch that we're basically drawn in. So I know that I think on Bumble you can do like a find a BFF type thing that sort of features on some of the apps. But most of the dating apps are there to find mates. And for men, that's like one thing and one thing only. So that or nothing.
Do I want to have sex with you or not?
Right.
Do I want to see you naked or not? And that's really, there's nothing bad or wrong. There's nothing bad or wrong about that.
Right.
You still feel that way. You just have more layers. But as a man, you still have that as part of the criteria of somebody that you'd want to continue dating, that you would consider as a partner or a mate. You would certainly want to be sexually attracted to them. What would be the point? But you now can talk about the other levels of, you could truly go out to lunch with a woman who you found attractive, but not necessarily are you going to have sex with her, and you could still end up being friendly with her. That is so unusual. Well,
the thing about it, I mean, this is one of the best kept secrets. It's going to sound so silly to say this way, though, is that those women who I make friends with, they have female friends, and some of their friends might be mates for me. So truly, as a smart man, any man should do this, is when he meets a woman who you're not sexually attracted to, but you like them, make friends with them, because they may have a best friend who's the perfect match for you. So why would you pass that up? So to me, it's like, because we are, I mean, again, we are, men generally are simple creatures. We look at what's in front of us. So when we're looking at the dating specifications, we're looking at who do we meet in front of us, not thinking like, well, this may not be the one, but who do they know, or who do they know that somebody who I do want to be with? So when we start thinking more outside the box, so to speak, or outside the limitation of the way that we've been trained to think, we can look at women and go, she's attractive and she must have attractive friends. I mean, selfishly, of course, but it's that sense of like being a connection. Because the other part also is the fact that she may get to know us and like who we are so much that she wants to recommend us to her friends. Like, I know the perfect woman for you because I love who you are. I'm not interested in you, but my best friend is. What would be wrong with that picture?
So Cece brought up, what about the girlfriend code? So the only problem there could be is you and I are friends, and you're not interested in dating me. You're interested in being friends with me, but I'm interested in dating you. I am not introducing you to my friends.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally get that one too. And the same thing's true for us men. I mean, if we find a woman we're very attracted to, we're not going to introduce her to our best friends or our guy friends. Like, no way. That's like, she's mine. Even if I don't get her, I'm not going to share her with anybody else in case she changes her mind,
I know. That's like a whole nother enlightenment that we have not reached yet, right?
Right.
So thanks for bringing that up, Cece, because that is something that you think would be so easy that people would just introduce you. And so it is a kind of a delicate thing to play with, that if I was not interested in you to date, I'd be so happy to introduce you to my friends. So we have to just make sure that it's however the one person feels, the other person feels that way. And that was one of the big umbrella things I kept thinking all week when we had this title. It all has to be communicated. You have to talk
Yes.
to each other about, this is how I'm feeling, or this is how I'm not feeling, or this is how I'm feeling differently than you, and talk about it to see if you can come to a place in the middle. It might be you can't, but to not talk about it leaves everybody's getting their feelings hurt for both sides. Definitely both sides can get hurt, which is really sad.
And that's so key, is the fact is that we don't communicate effectively, unfortunately. And also we have this assumption the other person's going to think like we do, which they don't. Men and women think differently. So of course there's going to be different perspectives. One of those pieces also is that, and I've done the research on this, but I think it's the way it would work, is if a woman meets a man and doesn't have immediate attraction to him, over time it could change. For most men though, if there's no attraction initially, it probably won't change.
No.
So there's these divergent paths, so to speak, where a man and woman, if they're both initially unattracted to each other, the woman might stay interested because at some point she may go, I actually like this guy a lot more than I thought I did. But for most men, we don't get that with women. It's just not the way we're wired. Again, not right, wrong, just different.
Yeah, you grow on us. That really is what I found with my late husband, because there were so many of the inside things that I liked about him that the outside part became very attractive to me, because he wasn't unattractive. I always need to say that. He just wasn't my type, but he became my type.
Yeah.
So also I thought of an example that when I was married the first time, we had a couple friend and we did so much with them. And I got divorced, and he and I still would have dinner, and I'd have dinner with the two of them sometimes. And then he got divorced. And one night we were out to dinner, and the waitress even said, oh my God, have you guys like known each other forever? Because you have so much to talk about. He said, yeah, we really have known each other a long time. And so we thought, well, let's see. So we did date for a while. We went on vacations. And then it was about 6 months and we went, yeah, no, we're going to just go back to being, and we have been friends for 50 years. Isn't that amazing? We went back to being friends, really, really good friends. He lives in Arizona. He drove here to spend the night in the guest room for one weekend after my husband died. And it was just lovely to have this long time good friend who we had this extra level of intimacy, not just the sexual part, but that we knew each other so well. It was comforting to have him in the house. And there was no innuendos, no extra stuff. And it's really lovely. But oh my gosh, I've stayed friendly with a couple of guys I dated for a little while, especially when they got in other relationships because I didn't want them. That seemed to help. That was a really interesting thing to happen. If I didn't want them and they met somebody else and they were really happy, I felt like I could relax. Does that happen on the guy side too? I'm curious.
Well, I'm going to speak for myself
Yes.
in this state. But I was looking back at, just when you were saying that, I was reflecting back on a couple of my past relationships. There are a couple of women who I dated that I'm still very much, I love dearly, but not sexually. I mean, both of them have been remarried since we broke up. But I remember how much I loved them then, and the love is still there, but it's just more friendship based. Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, one of my exes, I'm actually friends with the daughter who was, I think she must have been 11 at the time when we were dating, her daughter. And now her daughter's married with a kid. And I'm still looking at her going, but she looks like 11 years old to me in my head. But it's been so long. So, and we're Facebook friends, even though she's not local here, but her mother and I were in a relationship, and we bumped into each other several years ago after a breakup, and it was just wonderful to see each other. And she was with her fiance, and it was a nice conversation, but it was friendship based still, because it's like we're still connected. Although, to be honest, there wasn't as much there because there was no relationship energy, Yeah. So there's a bit of that going on. And yes, I do have female friends who I have no chemistry with. And again, because I'm unusual, so to speak, I have a lot of female friends.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're friends who I would do whatever it takes to help them because that's part of my way I work. I mean, I'm dedicated to the family. It's my mission, my work, my calling. And so those women I clearly in here have no sexual desire on them at all. And I do have desire to care for, support, be friends to, whatever they need
Mm.
type stuff. And
That's
again,
really nice.
I may be unusual.
I think so, because I've not found that. My gay guy friends has a whole nother side of it where
Right.
they are my ride and die. They're there for me. We pick out people when we're out because we like kind of similar looks. It's pretty funny. But I've really tuned my gaydar. It's been pretty fun. And so those people, that group of people for me has been extra special because they're really truly guy friends. And
Mhm.
I have one
And
that's more the
clearly
feminine part of his. Sorry,
clearly no sexual chemistry because they're gay. Right.
we are not at all, not at
Right.
all, which is really kind of fun and very relaxing. And one of them is always the feminine part of his relationships, but the other ones are more the masculine, tend to want to be the more masculine. And I like being around the masculine side of the men. So that was really fun, especially those first few years after my husband died. They were just such rallying people for me. And I wasn't interested in dating or being with men or anything. And it was like, oh, I love having this masculine energy around me, though. That
Hmm.
was a really extra bonus for me. I hadn't really thought about it that way before, but not having my husband there, it was nice to have this very safe container to still get that fix.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, this obviously is outside the framework of this conversation in a way because there is no sexual possibility there
No.
in a sense. But that's key as well. Is that yes, being friends with people who are of the opposite sex but of a different polarity
Yeah.
preference is a different conversation too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to sidebar a second into the friends with benefits piece because we joked about that beforehand because it comes up too because we're talking about friends can we just be friends? Well, sometimes there are friendships that do develop into sexual connection that isn't relationship based.
Mm-mm.
It's just friendship, and those are rare. Obviously, I mean I presume they're rare. I haven't done any research to actually quantify this, but I do know. I mean, from one of my experiences, I had a roommate that I was roommates with. And pretty much every time she went through a breakup with her boyfriend because they had a really messy relationship, we would get together. And then when she got back to her boyfriend, we would be friends again. We're housemates too. So, and I'm looking back and I'm realizing I was amazed how easy that was. It was there was so little enmeshment going on. There's no presumptions or assumptions or rules or anything. It was kind of like, oh, okay, that's fun. Now I don't know what he was thinking, because he was the ex on and off again with her. But she and I had a great time, and I was in my 20s, I think 20s or 30s, around late 20s, early 30s. To remember that experience, and I know that isn't very common experience, I would say. But to have relationships, friendships with people of opposite sex, where you have that sexual experience with on occasion. I'm sure. Again, I don't have quantifiable data on this to know. Okay, it's happened so many times. But when it happens, and it's interesting because it's like it's an outlier, so to speak, because it's like it's not relationship based, it's not friendship based. It's just oh, that was interesting. That moment.
Yeah. And it is tends to be, especially in the younger years, more of a challenge for women because we can sometimes catch feelings that we weren't intending to. And so
Yeah.
I did the same thing, that there was a guy that when we were not in a relationship with somebody else, because we were not interested in a long-term relationship with each other, but sex was really fun. So we'd call and say, so are you available? Or are you available? And I did that for a brief time. And it was really interesting how I didn't catch feelings with him. But there were other people that I thought, oh, this will be casual, but it wasn't the same kind of arrangement. And I found myself starting to feel, or they even did. And I was like, well, that's not good because I don't see them as a potential mate. And
Right.
I find now coaching, especially men that are widowed, they're really having trouble being friends They were in this loving, caring, sexually active, people think we're old. We're so not old. You and I can attest that we're so not old. It's pretty funny how people roll their eyes. I'm like, so not.
Just getting to a prime.
Yeah, I think so. And my grandfather in their 90s, he told me that they still did. It just took them a little longer. They went a little slower.
There you
So
go.
I come from good genes. But they're feeling more connected when they're having sexual relationships with women now. And they're having to be more careful about, is this a potential partner? Is this a potential future relationship? Because they're going to get attached, and they're so surprised because they hadn't felt that way in their much younger years before they married.
Right. In fact, I was going to say something because something came up for me about that, about the paradigm of someone who's widowed versus divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part of it is because I'm just hypothesizing here, but my thought is that if somebody loses a partner through them dying and then becoming a widow, because of there's such an abruptness to it, that there's almost a sense of that the attraction didn't die with them. The attraction continued. Whereas with a divorce, oftentimes because there's so much upset, discord, and all the hurt feelings and stuff, there's no chemistry, no sexual desire whatsoever. Although sometimes there is angry sex that happens once in a while too with divorced couples. Just put that on the table too. So I wonder if there's a different sense of energetics in the person who is left out afterwards, if the abruptness of losing somebody versus the progressive losing somebody through divorce, if that creates a different connection to sexual attraction for them afterwards. Just I don't know. I don't have an answer to that one, but a question.
And I think that that's a really good point, because often one or both of the people in the divorce are really mad at the other person. Even if they have angry sex, they're still mad at them. They're mad for the reason they want a divorce. They're mad at the other person for wanting a divorce. There's lots of mad. And even people that are widowed, if it was a long lingering illness and they weren't able to have sex for months or years, they still desired it. It wasn't that they lost their feeling of desiring their partner. It wasn't as if they were mad at them. Mm-hmm. So yes, it is still, that wiring is still firing inside of them. And especially the women, we talk about how we have our widow period, where sometimes they just want to go out and have sex because they're just, I know the widow community is pretty wild. We have lots of interesting sayings that we just need to feel connected again. We just need to feel a body, and that it can be more tempting to slide into what you're thinking might be a relationship when it's not. It's just fun sex. And you and I are not going to say anything bad about fun sex. If it's two consenting adults and everybody's playing by the same rules and everybody's talking about their feelings and not feelings and where they are and where they're not, have a blast. We are going to write you notes saying, please do it, as much as you want.
I'm a
fan. Big fan of sex. Both of us are big fans of sex. Have as much as you want, as often as you want, with the people that you like having it with.
With the caveat of being honest. That's the thing we said, be honest and communicate.
Honest. Because if your feelings only go to a point, you need to say that out loud.
Yes.
And if you say, I don't know if they might change, you say that out loud too. And then as soon as it does change or doesn't, you need to say that out loud. And that's one of the hardest things, because I find that once you've joined your bodies, especially if you have an orgasm, we don't tend to be quite as honest with ourselves and the other person. And oh my God, that's when all the problems happen.
Yeah, so that's unfortunately one of the side effects, so to speak, of this sort of setup. And it is a dance of like all the excitement and connection, attraction. Then it's like, oh, I can't say anything. I'm ashamed now. Because the switch is so bizarre in a way, but we carry that somehow inside of us. Yeah.
Yeah. The shame, the being disloyal to yourself, being in denial, being disloyal to the other person. Now you care about them. You don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, not telling them is going to hurt their feelings way more. That's the part that people get really screwed up about, where they don't say what they really is going on now. They wait until now it's worse.
Right.
Yeah. So can you be friends? Sure. You have to talk about it.
Absolutely. One thing that's funny. One thing I was talking about in a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago about this, and it's a different part of the conversation, is also, which is the other side of friendship in a sense, is that I've talked to quite a few clients and friends where their relationship ended, there was nothing left. And the thing is that this whole point about with friendship first, where if like the friend zone, you're doomed in the friend zone. It's like, well, maybe not. Because what if you get to know somebody as a friend first? Then the relationship is that goes on with friendship. Then you add a relationship on top of that, which is romantic, sexual, everything else. But if that fades away, the friendship is still going. So that's a very simplification, of course. But that understanding that friendship can be the continuum which you have with that person, regardless of the relationship status.
Yes.
That whether you get into a relationship or you fall out of a relationship, the friendship stays and remains the same. Yeah. That's the thing that goes against the idea about, well, you can't be in the friend zone because that's bad. It's like, well, the problem is the friend zone is a made-up term. Yeah. And frankly, I personally think it would be great I mean, as much as I would like to say that's easy, I mean, been single for quite a while, so it may not be that easy to keep the chemistry, subdued, but to spend time getting to know somebody as a friend first before the chemistry overtakes everything. We talk about the dating apps, and I'm in a roundtable discussion on this about, do you have sex on the first day, second date, third date, or you kiss them, these sort of dates? I'm like, where's the friendship fit in that picture? You don't make friends till 3 months into the relationship?
Yeah.
If ever?
Yeah. Yeah. My big thing that hooks me, I have to like them. I have to like how they think, to like who they seem to be. I mean, I want to see the actions that prove it, but what they say, what they think about the world, how they talk to me, how they talk about themselves, how they talk about the other people in their lives, their passions, their things that tug on their heart, the way they treat the people in their life. I have to like them. And the more I like them, the more I am going to have the potential to feel closer emotionally, mentally, and ultimately physically.
Actually,
absolutely. Right. So that's a friendship thing for me. I have to like my friends. I'm not going to, if I don't like you, you're probably not going to be my friend.
So I have a story about that one. After you come back from the break, I'll share about a personal experience about that one. Just to keep you.
Oh, I want it. I will be on pins and needles. We'll be right back to hear Barry's story.
Ooh, see you in a minute.
And we're back with Going Solo Media. Let's talk about dating with Barry and Christine with Barry's story.
Set up.
I'm ready. I'll give you a drum roll.
Well, you're talking about, your attraction only can really grow by having all those in place. As I said, I'm not a typical guy, just to be up front. I thought something wrong with me actually when I was in. This is actually in my very early 20s, and I remember this happened in Germany. It happened a few other times too. But the experience in Germany, I actually shared the story before, but I celebrated my 21st birthday on the Reeperbahn, with the red light district in Hamburg, where I was living for that time. My friends took me out. The idea was going to get me laid by one of the hookers. And I wasn't comfortable with that. And they were thankfully acquiesced to my wishes. So we only got drunk instead. Came back to the apartment that I was sharing with my housemates. That's funny. I visually remember the structures: third floor of the building, old German building in Hamburg. Yeah. Anyway, so late that night, one of their friends came in, and she basically, I shared this last week. I know I shared this recently with you, I think. But this gorgeous blonde woman who came in and wanted to have sex with me because the boyfriend was out of town. Anyway, so in case you didn't see the episode where I shared about this, she came in and was drop dead gorgeous. I mean, she was pretty much the most beautiful woman I'd seen at that point in my life. And I would say 20, I just turned 21. She basically wanted to have sex with me. She climbed into bed with me. And I couldn't get it up, to be blunt. And what, I mean, part of me, 21, part of me goes, what's wrong with me?
I know.
I should be, But what I got, and this is hindsight, to be honest, I didn't get this at the time. This definitely was hindsight. And I found out afterwards, by the way, that she wanted to have sex because she was actually upset with her boyfriend, who was actually in the military, who'd gone away for a weekend, and she was upset with him, so she basically was taking it out on me. I didn't know that, but part of me knew, energetically speaking, and that sounds weird because again, at the time I had no clue. But looking back and go, part of me knew this because part of it was the fact that there was this definite, it wasn't ideal, but the second part, which is underneath it, was, as you said, like, having attraction with this person. I wasn't actually feeling for her. Like, there's no love, there was no affection, there was no like. I mean, literally, I met her that night. And as much as I have had one night stands before, that one did after that point, but that point, it wasn't going to work. My body was betraying me, so to speak, because I wanted to, but I couldn't. And the point of that was such a pivot point in my life. And looking back, I'm going to say this, I'm actually proud of myself because even though that would have been fun, there would be one way to lose my virginity too. But also there was something that was, I didn't realize at the time, but I must have got it. Some part of me got it. I was going to get used. And that wasn't what sex was about for me. It still isn't.
Wow.
So that was a transformational moment, although it took me about 15 years to get that, to look back in hindsight. But now I look back with that, no problem at all, because I talk about it as an issue, because what happened that way because there was something going on where I chose subconsciously, unconsciously, not to do what was expected that way because it wasn't serving me.
That's a really great story. And I think such a good word to pay attention to in your own body for everybody is, do you feel used? Do you feel cared about? Do you feel that this person likes you? Do you like them? Do you feel comfortable and safe with them? Do you know what their motivation is? Do you know what they want tomorrow? And I'm not bad-mouthing anything, doing anything, not doing anything. It's that, right. Does it work for you? My conversation with myself was always, I'm going to have to look at myself in the mirror tomorrow, and I want to be okay with who I see, whatever it is I decided to do. So I would make these so my friends would go, nobody ever thinks as much as you do. I go, I thought about it all the time. And generally I didn't get up the next day having done or not done something and had any trouble looking at myself in the mirror. I go, okay, I'm still okay with the decision I made of yes or no. But wow, that really is amazing that you did that. Didn't do that at 20 for sure. I probably wouldn't have got married. My first husband, if I'd been more conscious like that.
Well, speaking to that point about looking in the mirror, I had the opposite experience in looking in the mirror afterwards, going, what was wrong with me? I was judging the chat, to my French, judging the crap out of myself.
I bet.
For a few weeks after that. So I'm like,
well, a 21-year-old virile guy with this gorgeous blonde who wants to have sex with you.
And that was a one-time opportunity.
They put it in a movie, they'd say that never happens.
Oh, it didn't. We should say it didn't complete the action. Yes. That's the thing is that, I wasn't saying, saying it now I can be proud of it in a way, But it took me a long time after that didn't happen the way I wanted it to for me to get to that point. It's just to say, it's like, it wasn't like I was instantly going, look at me, I did that right. I had no clue. I thought something's wrong with me.
I know. And the times I said no were really, truly because I said, I can't suit up for this. And I didn't always even know why. I learned sometimes later. It wasn't the right person for a bunch of reasons.
Yeah. And that's
but
the
I
thing.
listen to myself every time.
But this is the thing, you're saying that, and the same thing from my experience is that sometimes our intuition tells us stuff. We have no understanding of how the hell it would know that. But you're saying that too. It's like, I know I've definitely had close misses, and there are a couple of women I look back on and who were definitely hot to trot, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I knew right up front. It's almost like when you can smell, like, the gasoline.
Yeah.
It's going to get lit on fire. It's like, this is all wrong.
Yeah.
She's hot for me. It is definitely not reciprocated. Yeah. And it was interesting that those times were so obvious, and I had no issue going, I did the right thing. And so, yeah, absolutely. We do oftentimes have that radar, the intuition, but the question is, have we listened to it enough? Because for many of us, we override that and go, well, I'll do it anyway. And then we wonder why we regret it later.
Yes. And we undermine ourselves. And then we think, oh, I can't trust my instincts because look how they lead me wrong. It's because we didn't listen to our instincts. When our intuition's saying, at least take a moment, take a breath, ask a couple more questions. It might still be okay, but at least ask. Oh, yeah. Young and dumb, boy. We just,
Well, that's the thing, is young and dumb with wisdom that's sitting right behind our brain, so to speak. It's like, it's that interesting dance. And again, I'm not a normal guy, so maybe I don't believe I'm a normal guy. I definitely stand out from the crowd, so to speak. So I don't know if that's a normal experience for other men. I didn't think it did, because when the men I was around as much as I would dare to say anything to them, they were not in the same boat I was.
No, I don't think that generally that happens, or that they would admit it to very many men.
Right.
Yeah. I think it might even happen, but they're not going to tell you. They're not going to say it on a podcast like you do. Oh, by the way.
Oh my God, this is public? Oh my God.
I know. People are actually watching and listening and going to think about it.
Oh my God.
So the answer to the question is, yeah, you can start out as friends and stay friends. As in my case, you could be friends, then lovers, then stay friends again. But wow, it takes very grown-up adult people who have to have very grown-up adult conversations and we had to revisit it a few times. It didn't just like, oh yeah, fine, no, that did not happen. We had to have a few future conversations about, he'd say, are you sure? And I go, yeah, I really am. And then I'd say, yeah, I really want to just keep reassuring you. And if it's too hard, I really get that, because I do understand there were people that I thought, I can't be friends with them now. I can't watch them date other people, even though I know it's over. It was too painful for me. And I had to really say, I couldn't be friends with them. I couldn't be big. That would have been too big of me.
And also, I mean, there's also a level of self-care to say, I need to, for myself, I need to take care of myself, which means exclusion or separation or whatever that is. Because the thing is, we can get caught up in the paradigm where if we don't focus on friendship or focus on connection, there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
But again, that thing about the gut instinct, the intuition, the wisdom we have inside, the more we practice, the more we listen, the more we do our best to actually understand what's being said to us internally, the better we get at it, and the more accurate our feedback, our listening is going to be, so that we can make better decisions and ideally take care of ourselves better. The thing is, I'd say many of us, if not all of us, have made bad choices in relationships and dating. And in friendships too. I mean, I've had friendships that I definitely look back and go, that was a mistake. So even on that level, there are people who I didn't want to associate with, whether it's romantic or not. It was just like, no. So trusting your intuition, your inner guidance, when you choose your friends, when you build connection, and yes, especially when you get to a romantic relationship, is ideally you can have the friendship, which is that connection underneath everything. So even romantic relationship, even if it's a short-term one or a long-term one, based on friendship. I mean, the number of people who go through divorce that's messy because they were never friends when they started, So when the relationship is over, even after 3 kids and 25 years, there's no friendship to sustain it. So
And a
maybe,
lot of people I know that have been married for a long time say that that's often the foundation that's gotten them through. When they
yeah,
were just feeling so mad at the other person, they still liked them. There still was that foundation of, we're gonna work this out, gosh darn it, because we really want to stay, because we really like each other, even though this is a really hard period. Yeah,
oh yeah,
it's the foundation of friendship. Oh, I don't think there's a substitute. I mean, you've heard it. Lots of people who are been married forever. It's my best friend. That's the person I'd rather do anything with than almost anybody else. Those are the people whose marriages happily last a long time, because there's
yeah,
unhappily a long time. Yuck.
yes,
But it's
indeed.
my brother and sister-in-law. It's the woman I go riding with. I mean, really, they like each other, even when they're mad, even
Hmm.
when they're having just the worst time with each other. They still say, I still really like them. They're still my favorite person, even though I'm so pissed. That's the thing. When I say I have to like somebody, I know I need to build that foundation.
Absolutely. I mean, frankly, it should be the basis of every relationship on any level. But we're not raised that way. We look at romantic
No,
relationships being you meet somebody, fall in love, you kiss them again, in relationship with them, and you don't think about friendship anywhere.
no.
So maybe we offer a different paradigm going forward. That maybe in friendship, just be friends first might be the best approach possible.
What a concept.
I know.
Because I have to tell you, really liking somebody, for me, deepened the love, and the sex was even better. And I do think that it was all those elements mixed together. It was the trifecta.
But it's funny because I know people who basically have such a great friendship, they don't want to ruin it by having sex. So you got both sides of that one,
That's really true. I've heard that too. I haven't
Yeah.
experienced that, but I've heard it. And I know they're serious about it.
So that's the thing is that friendship again, because that's the thing is that if you're in a great friendship, would sex add to it or would sex take away from it? Because the thing is, there are certain relationships where the friendship is so good that the idea of having sex like puts you in a place of like, ooh, that would make our friendship bad. Maybe you want to listen to that intuition too. But then there are people who you want to be in a relationship with that starts with friendship. You know it's going to be amazing. So there are 2 sides to that coin, just to be clear.
For sure. And there you are back talking to each other again. Gosh,
Yes.
I'm nervous about this. I'm worried about this. This has been my past history. I'm concerned I'm going to jump into the same pit again, and that's going to be a problem. And that's when you could go do, and I've sent people that weren't married and not even go to couples counseling, go see somebody, 3 or 4 times, because they're going to help you ask the questions and answer the questions with each other. You might not, it's not like you're hiding. It's like, oh, I never thought about it I never thought to ask that question. Oh, wow, that is a really good thing for me to know about you. And let me tell you that same thing about me. That can just be a huge benefit to go, yeah, this isn't going to work. Oh, yeah, it might be. And then let's say you've now had sex and it was great, but you're like, yeah, it turns out, or it doesn't great. And you not, for some reason you're going, it's not going to work. Now you can go back to that same person and say, can we go back to being friends again?
Right.
Because I did that with my friend Gary. I mean, I did that. It's so amazing. It's only one person I've ever done that with, but it was pretty amazing that we stayed friends all this time.
I'll say in that context, it definitely takes 2 to tango, so to speak. You're both on the same page. Because the other thing about this as well is that you may have great friendship. When it comes to sex, though, one's highly invested and one's like, no, thank you. And then you've got this imbalance going on. So the friendship isn't available at that point. So
And
we'll say this isn't a black and white conversation. It's clear. We're talking about a lot of aspects, a lot of grays in this, and so to speak, and different points. So hopefully people who are watching this get the point that this is something to think about. And again, be honest, communication, all the things we talked about are vital for this. Sorry, you want to say something?
yeah, that I wanted the piece of that I think makes it work with Gary and I is that we went back to being the same really good friends we'd been before, that we'd really worked on for a long time before we ever dated, that we were so happy each time the other person found somebody. He couldn't have been happier for me when I got married.
That's a
He had
key.
no negative feelings about it, which was wonderful because we'd cleared that part out. It took a little while and we worked at it, because it was important to us to see if we could really just go back to being really good friends. And I think that's why it hasn't worked out with other people, because I knew I couldn't be so terrifically happy for them if I'm happy that you're going to be happy, but don't tell me about it. I was
Right.
clear about it. I couldn't do that. I couldn't be big enough in some of those relationships. Okay, I know my limitations. Go have a good life.
Yeah. Do the best
And
you
you have
can.
to know that.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that, again, back to honesty, is that when you can be honest with yourself and say, I can't cross that line. I've got to say this is what I can say, and that's as far as I can go.
Yeah.
But and also don't judge that. Be okay with it, because frankly, part of what we're talking about here as well is all the judgments that show up when you don't do it the right way, and then it becomes a whole mess, can of worms. So stay true to yourself and be honest. It's the easiest way to navigate this, I would say.
Because friendships, they get messy.
Oh yeah.
It's part of having a friendship. It can't stay messy, or you can't stay good, solid friends. And that was the thing I knew that made the difference between Gary and the other guys that said they wanted to stay friends. I was like, it would still be messy for me. I'd still be jealous. I'd still be resentful. How come it wasn't me? I knew that. Okay, I admit it. I'm not as enlightened as the next person maybe that could do that. I couldn't. But some reason, Gary and I worked it out that we could both feel that same way. And it's quite remarkable that we could work that out, that I was happy when he got in relationships. He was happy when I did. And we'd talk about it, no graphic details, but gosh, I'm so happy for you. I'm really happy that you found them. And it was interesting because we'd already had enough discussions about why we weren't working out with each other that we didn't have to have that. Well, how come you picked them? It was obvious when they talk about where they were and who they were with. It was like, well, yeah, that's so not me. So not me. I couldn't be Matt. It's so not who I want to be. It's not who I'll ever be. So that was really helpful. And I found I couldn't do that with just everybody, though. So sometimes you have to stop being friends.
That's the other part too, ultimately, is that friendships are not required with everybody, but also not with just with anybody too. You got to really be clear about who you're going to have friends with as well. So yeah. So the answer to the question is, can we just be friends? Yes, with caveats.
Lots and lots of caveats and lots of communication, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can't just fly by the seat of your pants in a good, solid friendship, potential loving relationship. They really do take conscious thought. And then it's not really work as long as you're staying on top of it.
Right.
I think. Yeah.
That's good.
Hopefully, you've all learned a bunch about can we just be friends today? I bet people are really surprised about all the different directions we went.
Well, we just touched this. Well, we did cover a lot of it. I said we just touched the surface. We did cover a lot, which is good.
No, we covered a lot of subjects that could go deep, every single one of them, as always. So if you want to go deeper, you can talk to Barry or I directly. Yes. So the way to reach me is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. And you click on what's holding you back from love, and we can have a personal, confidential, complimentary conversation about.
That's a lot of
C's. Somebody you want to be more than friends with? I can help you with that. You can also see my videos and read my newsletter through Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram and YouTube. And now I'm going to forget one again. Twitter. Thank you. You're so good to me. And tell people how they can get a hold of you, because you're so much better at that than I am.
I've had some practice, but yes, thank you. So for me, if you want to get in touch with me, it's a lot easier for me because I only have one basic branding is my name. But if you're definitely the same idea with Christine, if you want to get my help and find out more about what's on your mind and your heart and what you want to navigate through relationships to get what you want, what's in the way and that sort of thing, on my website, which is barryselby.com, on the front page there's also a little button you can say, let's connect, and we can talk and actually have a conversation that we can discuss where you are, what you're looking for, and if I can help you. Simple as an effective. As I mentioned, my name is my social media everywhere except Instagram, which is the real Barry Selby, but my social media handle is Barry Selby on pretty much everywhere. So Facebook, Clubhouse. Yes, I'm very busy on Clubhouse. YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, all the other ones too. And Facebook, on YouTube, I have 1,300 videos at least up there. You can definitely do some research on my YouTube channel. So please subscribe at least, and then you can check all that stuff out. And you can find out more about me everywhere else. And
Barry and I'll be back next week at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the other times in between with another scintillating conversation about let's talk about dating.
And all that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. Lots of deep conversations. It's so fun. Yes. I look forward to it every week.
Me too.
Okay. Bye, my friend Barry.
Bye, my Christine. See you next week.